All right, it's that time of the year when we get to talk about zombie foreclosures again. And Adam Data put out some information, so we're going to review that today. Welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Bubble Turns or Housing Market Turns. Randy Patrick here, your host, putting the realism back in real estate. Hope you are doing well. And again, I appreciate all the subscriptions. And if you're not already a subscriber, if you could please help my channel grow and hit that subscribe button, I would really appreciate that. Thank you very much. So we're going down a path here to talk about, we'll call it zombie foreclosures and what they are and the volume of them and stuff like that. So we're going to get into it. Basically, every quarter, Adam Data Solutions puts out what I call or what they call their zombie, I guess you could say, I don't even know what you call it. So it's their quarterly foreclosure report, and they spike out specific information for what we call the zombie foreclosures. All right, so zombie foreclosures are basically homes that are in the foreclosure process or have been foreclosed on that are sitting there doing nothing. So it's a missed opportunity. It could be a home for somebody, etc. But based on state laws and foreclosure processes and stuff, and bank policies and regulations, certain times you can't touch these homes until certain things are completed. But anyway, we'll get into that in a second here. So here's the report. It basically is, vacant zombie properties diminish across the U.S. as the foreclosure moratorium remains in effect for the fourth quarter of 2020. So that is the case here. So basically, we have the fact that their fourth quarter 2020 vacant property and zombie foreclosure report. They're basically saying there's roughly 1.6 million vacant properties across the U.S. that represents about 1.6 million homes across the board, and they are vacant. So we're looking at 1.6% of all vacant homes, all homes in the U.S. are vacant. The report takes a look at what's in the foreclosure process. According to Adam Data Solutions, there's only 200,000 of these properties are in the foreclosure process at the current time frame. Not too sure about that, but I think there's more. However, they're saying that's down 7.3% from the third quarter of 2020, while the number that's sitting empty is also down 4.4%. Why is it down? Well, because we have moratoriums going on, right? So we're not putting any new foreclosures or very few in the system for the foreclosure process, and we're not actually, we'll call it selling or going to auction on a number of, because of eviction and foreclosure sale moratoriums as well too. So it's kind of like we're in limbo. When I talk about an artificially controlled market, yeah, we have low inventory, we have low interest rates, we have rising prices, and we don't have certain segments of inventory that could be helping with more sales opportunities or helping to reduce or bring down average price points, and this is one of the major portions there. So basically, the portion of pre-foreclosure properties that have been abandoned into zombie status has actually ticked up slightly from 3.7% in the third quarter to 3.8% in the fourth quarter. So, it's just one of those things that, it's not much because not much is going on. Among the nation's stock of almost 100 million potential residential properties, zombie properties just continue to represent a very small fraction, only 1 out of every 13,000 homes. And, how can I put it? I guess their statement is sort of saying zombie foreclosures have been barely an issue around most of the country for over a year now, and they're even less of that right now. A surprisingly strong housing market and temporary ban on foreclosures continues to leave most neighborhoods without such properties, said the chief product officer with Adam Data Solutions. That all could change in a flash when foreclosures are allowed to resume or if the coronavirus takes a toll on the market. But for now, things are steady as they go, with the normal overall numbers down and the rates of zombie properties pretty much unchanged. So again, we know that not much is happening right now. They're admitting the fact that that could all change, everybody, when things open up. And that's the thing. The moratorium is, we'll say, slowing down the process. I mean, so listen, people are benefiting because they're not being foreclosed on. It gives them more time on their property to save money, et cetera, and live. But once the future, once the new year hits, when all these moratoriums start lifting on a more broader scale, we're going to see more stuff hitting the marketplace here. So just realize that when we take a look at states with the highest foreclosure rates, are sort of remain clustered in the Midwest and the South. Top rates among states with at least 50 properties in foreclosure and vacant include Iowa at 15.5%, Kentucky 12%, Missouri 10.2%, Georgia 9.6%, and Maryland 9.2%. So basically, you've got every so often we see different states based on their dynamic and their makeup of distressed property sort of top into the higher levels of zombies or foreclosures. So there's their infographic there. You got Iowa, Kentucky, Missouri, Maryland, and Georgia sort of have the most per capita, so to speak, of zombies based on their location. And if we go a little further here, well, we can see zombie rates rise in all but one state. So even though they're not, it's not a huge increase, we are seeing we are seeing the rate of zombie properties rise. So as a percentage of foreclosures, the highest number of zombie properties remain in the northeastern and midwestern states. New York continues to have the highest actual number of zombie properties with over 2,100, followed by Florida with 1,000, Illinois under 1,000, Ohio 836, New Jersey 346. California leads in the West at 324. Now, realize that, to actually sort of, how can I put it, be counted as a peg count in what I just said there, like, where these zombie properties are, someone actually has to go out and count, or what they're doing is they're going, Adam Data Solutions is probably going to each of the lenders and saying, hey, why don't you give us your number of zombie properties? So I don't know whether it's a direct count from each lender or whether they're just extrapolating based on percentages they receive from their data, etc. So again, when a property is in the foreclosure process, what happens is the lender or servicing company or bank, they're going to contract with either a real estate professional or maybe a property management company or a securitization company. What they do is they send somebody out to look at the property. So first of all, it's almost like an asset related thing. Let's look at the property to see whether it's vacant or occupied. That's the first thing they do. If it's vacant, then they report back saying the property is vacant. If it's occupied, they report it's occupied. So if it's vacant, then what the securitization companies are going to do is they're going to open the property up. They're going to change the locks. They're going to put a lockbox on it. They're going to put information stickers on the doors and windows. They're going to secure things. They may do some clean out. They may cut some grass, get rid of some trash. If properties have swimming pools, they may put 2x4s with chicken wire fence over top of the pool so people don't fall in and drown. So that's part of the process. So really, it's a matter of this is like a rolling tally. It just depends on when lenders or these companies go out there to take a look, how they report back, etc. So that's why you're never going to get a truly accurate count. There's always more out there than probably what really is, and we'll start seeing that hit a little higher as time goes on. But again, some of the states with the highest ratio of zombie foreclosures are also states that have been hit hardest by the pandemic. When the government bans on foreclosure activity expire, wouldn't be surprised to see the number of defaults in those states increase more rapidly than in other parts of the country. The number of zombie foreclosure properties rise more dramatically in those states as well. So yeah, so the people that are involved with the data collection and in this type of field, we all, they realize that we're at a low point now because of shutting things down and nothing's moving. Expectations, it's going to increase fairly substantially. Northeast and Midwest, obviously, we talked about that already. We've got the highest ratios are concentrated in the Midwest, led by New York, Illinois, Ohio, Florida, New Jersey. New Mexico has one of the highest ratios in the West as well. Lowest ratios of zombie foreclosures are New Hampshire, Idaho, West Virginia, Vermont, and Arkansas. So that's kind of interesting how there's some differences there. So, again, just things are going to be different based on region, location, COVID, state foreclosure process, things like that. So just as an overall sort of discussion point here, you got among 158 metropolitan statistical areas with at least 100,000 residential properties, Kansas City has 17.2% of properties in the foreclosure process. Peoria, Illinois, 16.3% in the foreclosure process. Omaha, Nebraska, 15%. Davenport, Iowa, 13%. Cleveland, Ohio, 13%. So these are just, I guess you could say, have the highest zombie rates out of what's in the foreclosure process. So essentially, for example, Kansas City, we're looking at 17% of the properties in the foreclosure process are zombies. And what does that mean? That means, as I said, it's in the foreclosure process. The homeowners have left. It's vacant, probably unkept, probably and if you drive around and look through neighborhoods, you're going to see this. If you have a foreclosure list and you drive around looking at the addresses in the list, you're going to see a certain percentage are going to be vacant. If they're vacant, that means the owners have abandoned the property. The opportunity is to connect with those owners and see if we can cut deals because they've essentially left and abandoned and divorced themselves from the property emotionally and physically. So those are opportunities right there. Other areas that have, aside from Kansas City and Cleveland, other metro areas that have like 500,000 or more people. Baltimore, Maryland has 12.4% of foreclosure properties are zombies. Portland, almost 12%, and Atlanta, 11.5%. So again, larger cities, larger, having, double-digit ratios of foreclosures that are zombies. The lower rates are in San Francisco, Charlotte, Denver, Philadelphia, and New York. So it's interesting that some larger cities have lower zombie ratios because I think of concentration, population, and what's going on, like whether they're in brisker growth markets. So, we've got counties out there. Cuyahoga County, which is Cleveland, is high up there. Broome County, which is Binghamton, New York, is high. Onondaga County in Syracuse, Summit County, Akron, Ohio, and where I'm at down here, Pinellas County, Clearwater, Florida. So those are the sort of counties that have top concentrations. With lowest rates are, looks like Passaic County, Jersey, Osceola County in Florida, Westchester County, New York, Queens County, New York, and Kings County, New York. So funny enough, I can show you that there's a huge amount of pre-foreclosures in Queens and Kings County and Westchester County, but funny enough, they don't have a high zombie population, for those foreclosures, which is kind of interesting. So again, just realize that as you go through all this data, you're going to find nuances, things here and there. Ultimately, when we start delving down into density and concentration, again, New York, Florida, Ohio, Illinois, you're always going to have concentrations there. Certain zip codes, you're going to find them all in Cleveland, some in Ohio, maybe one or two in New York that have the highest concentrations. Highest levels of vacant investor homes, Indiana, Kansas, Michigan, Ohio, Rhode Island. And why is that? I don't know. Maybe rentals are not great there, or again, there's changeover going on, etc. Who knows, right? When you're talking, investor homes. So you've got a rental home and you're in Ohio, but you've not, for whatever reason, you can't rent it or won't rent it, or it's not being rented, it's vacant. So who knows what's going on? So again, they're blending a little bit of information here, but ultimately in the end, this is what's going on: is that there's always going to be a certain percentage of vacant properties across the U.S. for various reasons, and then there's always going to be a percentage of homes in the foreclosure process. And out of the foreclosure process, you're going to have the zombie homes that are vacant. And it's typical: vacant, not being kept up, an eyesore, blight in the neighborhood. People say that it helps to decrease property values, things like that. Opportunity for squatters, opportunity for vandalism, things like that. So again, and that's true to a certain point. So what's my point here? The opportunity is find who owns these properties, see if you can make a deal, whether it's to buy out their equity, do a short sale, or track it and check it out. So when it goes to the foreclosure auction, you can buy it at the auction as well too. There's three or four different ways that you can handle these properties. And again, if they sit there, they're eventually going to go back to the lender. All right, let's talk about another article that came out now. So again, there's not much to talk about with the zombie foreclosures, again, because of where we're at in the process with most of the moratoriums going on. But since we're talking moratoriums, this came out the other day, and it basically was some updates on statewide foreclosure and eviction moratoria. So what we're finding now is that certain states are starting to relax some of their laws. So, for example, I'm in Florida, and we had at some point in time we actually had the FHA, the government moratoria on evictions for rental and for foreclosure sales and foreclosure sales evictions. We also had a state set up moratoria, and the CDC moratoria came in. So you have actually three levels of moratoria that are going on, which can be confusing. Well, some states now are actually going, some are extended out till next month, some are extended out to next year. So a lot of this going up to the end of the year. For example, in Florida, what happened is it was being renewed every month, and when October hit, the governor decided not to renew the moratorium, and reason being because he felt that since COVID-19 with the CDC has their own moratoria out there, a moratorium that we're going to this fall on that. So, but I guess the point is, these moratoria or can change, and language can change, and their perspective can change. So in Florida, for example, and again, I'm talking about because I live here. Well, basically, it says, the eviction and foreclosure moratorium established by the governor, cited the CDC's eviction order to explain this decision because he didn't renew it. He basically said was permitted to expire and avoid any confusion over whether the CDC's eviction order should apply in a particular circumstance. Thus, subject to other restrictions, foreclosures in Florida can now proceed to judgment and sale. So what they're basically saying is the fact that, hey, we're going to fall under the CDC guidelines, and if it doesn't fall under the guidelines, then the state and the government and the county and the clerks, they're going to, and the courts, they're going to proceed with moving the foreclosure processes to judgment and eventually setting sale dates. So as I mentioned on a couple of videos, that we're starting to see more foreclosure sales get on the auction calendar on a going forward basis. That's going to increase. And again, these are things that, obviously that this doesn't apply. If the CDC eviction ban doesn't, or foreclosure ban doesn't apply to them, or if it's not under the FHA guidelines, then if it's just a normal bank, say it's Bank of America or whatever, Chase, Wells Fargo, then it's going to go to sale now. So we're going to start seeing some pickup on that. But the point is that subtly this is happening, and we're going to see more and more of this going on. And people then will react. In other words, oh, if they have a sale, are they going to bug out of the property? Will these become more zombies? Things like that. What are they going to do? So it's somewhat confusing. But the point is that as time goes on, the next couple of months, we're going to see a lot more of this stuff loosen up, and we're going to start to see waves of foreclosure. You got earlier in the video here, the Adam data people, are saying that, right now it's kind of in limbo and we're stuck. There's not much volume. It's going to happen. They're telling us that. All right. So that's why when I discuss the housing bubble and what's going to happen in the future, I'm not the only one saying we're going to see foreclosures. Right. You've got people who run data companies or involved data companies who see what's going on, and they know how this is going to play out. They're telling us, they're not telling us how much, how deep, how many, when, whatever, but they're saying that, yeah, based on the environment, which is forbearance, pre-foreclosures, things in limbo, moratoriums, whatever, that once things open up, expect a pretty big surge. So we'll expect a surge and a couple mini waves of surges as well, too, as things kind of, play out in the marketplace. So that's kind of my point. So, but again, you can take a look. I'll post this article down here. I talked about Texas and California and stuff, but going back to the CDC, the thing about the CDC is that the new eviction moratoriums are putting much more onus on tenants to basically produce documentation and make the effort to go through the eviction process and go to the court and say, I can't, this should not apply to me for specific reasons, and proving that out. Because we all know that once the first eviction moratorium came into play and the states all jumped on that, all you had to do is tell your landlord, I'm not paying, and simple as that. You didn't get it. You're not being evicted. Oh, COVID. Okay, great. Well, you could still be gainfully employed. You could still have money in the bank, and you could still pay your rent. But for whatever reason, you've chosen not to. Not that I don't think, there's always going to be a segment of the population that'll do that. I mean, clearly the people who need the relief, need to do this, which is fine. But just what we're seeing is a move to a little more openness, truthfulness, proof positive to say, hey, I've got a situation here. I can't pay. That's fine. The courts just want to see proof of that, or are you coming out and signing documents, affidavits, whatever they're making people do. But it's different in each jurisdiction. But the point is, we see as, basically from a blanket policy to now, okay, there's more proof and more onus on a tenant to sort of fight for their right to do that, so to speak, which seems to make sense. All right, guys. So that's the scoop for today. You can see that things are changing. So what's the point I'm making here? So of course I want to tell you what my point is. The point is vacants and zombies are opportunities. So if we're in a situation now where we have low inventory, people are getting fed up with this, with a little bit of effort on your part, you can get yourself a discount property. It's simple as that. It's a little more work, but if you're driving around neighborhoods and you see things that don't look quite usual, look a little unusual, you write the address down and go check out the property appraiser and do some background work with the clerk. I mean, all this information is public information, you know, in your counties and states, and you can see, you know, what's going on. You can see whether they're in a foreclosure process. You can see whether there's a different mailing address, which means it's a second home, rental home, vacation home, you know, or, you know, you can use what's called skip tracing to find the seller's information and contact them and say, hey, you know, you've got this property here doing nothing. Let me help you. Let me take this off your hands. Let's make a deal here. So my point is, you know, a little bit of effort might get you some opportunities that maybe you didn't think were available from your real estate agent or just looking on Zillow and Realtor.com. Always going to say, don't get a false sense of where the housing market's headed. Right now, we have conflicting information. We're in what I would call two narratives in play here, a K-shaped housing market. I'm not the first guy to talk about this. You need to understand your market, what's going on. That's why I always focus on off-market properties, distressed properties. Properties are in what we call the shadow inventory. Foreclosures are not here yet because they're in limbo based on all the moratorium across the different levels and states and levels of government. But things are opening up, and we're starting to see more of that. Your real estate agent really won't be able to do this for you. Not that they don't know how. Maybe they don't know how, but maybe they won't, or they don't have the wherewithal or the confidence to do this or know what they're doing. So definitely, you know, reach out to me. I know a lot of people are reaching out to me these days. If you want to talk to me about, you know, for a consultation about what I'm talking about here, different methods to acquire property. If you're in a situation, if you're actually facing foreclosure, and you know you're going to be impacted going forward, reach out to me because we have solutions. Doesn't matter where you are in the country. You know, clearly I'm based in the Florida area, but I have a pretty extensive network of people that I work with, and we can look to get you solutions regardless of what's going on and regardless of where you are. So please reach out to me. Don't just think it's, you know, again, if you need help, I'm here to help as well too. All right, guys, thanks very much. Appreciate the likes, the video, the comments, the etc. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, help the channel grow. Share the video with family and friends. Reach out to me. I can do a lot of stuff for people with respect to housing. So again, have a happy Halloween weekend. That's why I figured it was a good time to release this video, and we'll look forward to speaking with you early next week. Take care.